Film is a medium that transports. All I have to do is pop myself in front of the TV to watch a movie, and I can just enjoy it, whatever place the film takes me to.
Movies have always been an escape. It gives you a whole new world to be in.
I have a rekindled love affair with movies.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again for us to talk all things movies. And you guys know that I love talking movies with two of the finest folks in the world, Paul Britton and Susan Chisholm, the other Real to Real Talkers. Guys, it's time for movie assignments, and I'm excited to figure out how our assignments went.
Yeah, me too.
It's a very exciting topic. I mean,
Absolutely. I think we finally exhausted the movies that Susan has seen, and so I'm kidding. But
wow.
every time we do movie assignments, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, what we do is we figure out what movies have we all seen, and we assign movies to a third individual based on whether or not they've seen it. So, for example, Susan and Paul, for this episode, have both seen the movie Tangled, and I had it assigned to me, and so forth and so on. So the idea here is to broaden our scope of movies that we have not yet watched, and then we'll talk about them and figure out how it went, what we thought, and things of that nature. So I don't know who wants to start, but I don't mind going first, so I'll leave it up to y'all. Where should we begin, team?
You go first.
Why don't I go first?
You go first. There you go.
And then Paul, you go next.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. All right. Look at that. Taking command. So the movie that I was assigned, I am excited to talk about because I am going to just trash all over it. I'm kidding. It wasn't that bad. The movie I was assigned was Tangled, a Disney picture that is, of course, based on a famous fairy tale, the tale of Rapunzel. And I have to admit that when I first saw this movie released several years back, zero interest. I had no, real draw to it. I don't know why. Probably because I was in the midst of my animated films are just not for me phase. And so, yeah. And so I went into it with that mindset. And as I watched it, I think that where I land on this film is it did so much that it was hard to want to keep going. The story was, of course, a overdeveloped take on the classic Rapunzel tale, which is the notion that she was this girl with long hair, and I'll do a poor job of telling the story itself. So I'm just going to look at it from the perspective of this film and the story that it told.
Yeah.
And so once she started using her hair to, do all kinds of different things, yeah, exactly, fight with and clean house with, whatever it was. I really did watch it, I promise.
Paint ceilings.
It just felt like it was a whole lot of stuff happening that was built around a very basic story, right? What I did like about it was the character development that occurs all around this story. The thing that kept it, interesting for me was that they had to create all of these different characters, Flynn Rider and all of his hench people and all of the characters that are encountered as, they go on this journey to go, take her to see these lanterns. And, I just was at a point where I thought, okay, if all of these characters hadn't been introduced, then I might not have been interested in this very basic fairy tale.
Okay.
Some of the more enjoyable parts of the film for me, definitely and I could never pronounce the person's name that stole her. Anybody want to help me with that? Gothel, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very it's your classic Disney villain. But there was something about her in the way that she was portrayed that really, for me, was like, okay, yeah, all right, I can get behind this. This is a cool story. This is a cool villain. Not much to them, but I don't know. It just seemed. It seemed like here's what I thought as I sat there. I've seen this story so many times, and it's just been inserted into this classic fairy tale of Rapunzel. So, it just, I don't know, it didn't really work for me overall. I wasn't affected by it in any sort of emotional way, that's for sure. Although I will say I really dug Maximus the horse. That was my favorite part of the entire movie.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you how you thought of Pascal and Maximus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How can I forget Pascal? The animals really stood out to me. Like this was, again, it was a classic Disney format. The telling of a fairy tale that is familiar, that has the Disney twists, and yeah, and Ron Perlman was in it, and so that's always going to get a few points for me. So yeah, I mean, it was a fun story. If you haven't seen Tangled, I certainly wouldn't say don't watch it. I mean, I'm sure kids, probably, I don't know how this film fared. Paul, maybe you can tell us. But this just didn't seem to me, it wasn't quite the Onward experience for me, but it just was like, okay, they're just sort of stacking another story using their classic Disney tropes. And yeah. I mean, it lands with a hard 3 tacos on our scale, but not much more than that, because I didn't really,
It did really well. The music was extremely popular.
Really?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
God, that was some of the stuff I had the most difficulty with. I was like,
okay. Yeah. No. The music. The songs were extremely popular. Yeah. It did really well. I wouldn't say that it was like. It did Frozen really well.
Right.
But the music was from the people that did Frozen. So it was kind of like, the precursor to that. So yeah, it did well.
Have I mentioned that I haven't seen Frozen? And so here's the thing. I probably just doing myself. So here's the thing. When the first song began, my literal thought, and this was, again, Sunday morning breakfast. I wanted to be fresh and ready. And the first song started, and I literally had this feeling of like, here we go again. It's going to be another, set of Disney songs to a story. It just was, yeah. Susan, you seem to be struggling with what I'm watching your reaction.
I'm not saying a word. I'm not saying a word. You knew it was what was going to be.
I know, and that's why I guess. Maybe I go in expecting more. I don't know. It just didn't work for me at a high level like some Disney films have. I mean, I really, it was good. I really don't have I don't have much bad to say about it. But it just wasn't this, I don't know. It just didn't have this huge impact. And so, nicely told story. Cool horse.
Yeah,
awesome.
It did over 500 million. So I mean, it did really well.
What?
592 million. Yeah.
Okay, well, what do I know?
Like Moana did 690 million, and I love Moana. So but I really like Tangled too. So yeah. I mean, look, it was really popular. It did really well. I understand your ambivalence. No. I don't share it.
Oh, no, sure. Yeah. But, maybe it's because, and forgive me if this is sort of oversimplifying it, but maybe as a parent, you guys have a different perspective of its effectiveness, with song and imagery. Possibly. And,
like this was my son loved this movie. And okay. Like there's a scene that, and this is not something he did as a kid, but where he would like want to watch one scene over and over and over again in a particular movie. That like he wasn't that kid, but with this movie he was absolutely that kid. And so there was just and yeah, like I don't know, it just works for me. It's got a great love story. The the frog is awesome. I know it's not a frog. It's
a chameleon.
It's chameleon. Then I'm supposed to say nuance.
So
look, the banter between Rapunzel and Flynn Rider, I think, is great, and I just as an example of that, I just threw some out. I don't know. But you're right. It's not earth shattering.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the emotional heft that some of the Pixar stuff has, and it doesn't have the originality that even Moana or Wreck-It Ralph has, but it does have the classic magic of a Disney animated movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that I can't deny. And I think the comment you just made sort of drove it home for me. Maybe it was the familiarity of the story that for me was like, okay, well, it's just another telling of a fairy tale that I'm familiar with. And so I will say that the part of the movie that had the most impact on me that actually made me sort of sit up and go, what the hell just happened, was when the final climax of the film was happening, and the solution was that he cut all her hair off, and then she was a brunette, because in the beginning she was already of blonde gold hair, right?
But she cut the Mother Gothel cut a little piece of the hair off, thinking that the hair contained the magic, and she could just take the hair and keep using it. And the little spot of hair that she cut was a brunette, like didn't turn brown. So like they established that.
There was just something about that sort of like, I'll solve this by cutting all her hair off, after the whole movie was all about her hair, and it was like gone, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, like I didn't see her get her hair colored. It just sort of happened. So yeah. And again, I would certainly say and understand those that loved it to the tune of 582 million. I mean, they didn't get any of my books on that, but hey, I watched it because you gave it to me, and I'm not going to say I hated it, but on our scale of 5 tacos plus guac, if we think it's worth it, I will give, as I said, Tangled a solid 3 tacos. Definitely recommend if you got kids. And just don't ask me to watch it again. So. All right. So I think we said Paul next?
Yeah.
Is that where we landed? All right.
I think that makes most sense.
I'm excited. Because I know what you watched. We all do.
Of course you do. So I watched The World Is Not Enough, one of the Pierce Brosnan and James Bond movies. I knew I hadn't seen all of the Pierce Brosnan and James Bond movies because I saw all of the Timothy Dalton ones, unfortunately, and didn't like any of them. And
Am I the only one that does? Good gracious.
Yes, apparently.
I'm indifferent, if that helps.
Yeah. But let's be clear. My not liking, because it's Bond, it's just total indifference. Like, okay, I saw it. I'll never watch them again. You know, I didn't hate them. Like, it wasn't like it was The Irishman or anything like that. So, and then, like Bond at that point had lost a lot of capital in my book, and then GoldenEye came out, and people loved GoldenEye, and I was just kind of like, oh, this is okay, and I felt like the reason why people loved GoldenEye was because Timothy Dalton was not, or Pierce Brosnan wasn't as horrible.
I thought you were going to say Timothy Dalton was not in it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which way I was going with it. Like, so like I had two thoughts, and like they didn't anyway. Bottom line, Pierce Brosnan was clearly a better choice than Timothy Dalton. And honestly, like, go back to when Timothy Dalton was selected. Beyond being one of the 5 people in the world that actually knew who Timothy Dalton was, because I loved the whatchamacallit, the Flash Gordon movie. Like, I was with the rest of the planet that thought, why is Pierce Brosnan not doing this? And then by the time they got around to Pierce Brosnan doing it, I'm sorry, this is going to sound bad, he had aged out. Like, quite frankly, and so it just didn't work. It just felt weird. Like it's like, why are we doing this now? Like this is literally 7 years too late. And you know, with GoldenEye, and the plot was just like, okay, whatever, it's fine. The World Is Not Enough was the third one, and I feel like I had seen 2 of the Pierce Brosnan, and now I'm thinking I've seen 3, because I definitely saw the last one with Halle Berry. I definitely saw GoldenEye, and I think I saw the second one. But bottom line is, we weren't sure which one I hadn't seen. I thought maybe I haven't seen The World Is Not Enough because I had no recollection of seeing Denise Richards in a Bond movie, and it turns out, yeah, I hadn't seen this, and I didn't miss anything the first time around. It turns out I missed absolutely nothing. Wow. Honestly, it could have used Timothy Dalton, because at least that would have been something that I would have said.
Oh my goodness.
Well, at least it had Timothy Dalton, and that's why it sucked. No, this movie was not good, like on any level. It was just corny, like, and I don't remember, because I've not revisited any of the Pierce Brosnan era Bond movies since first viewing. None of them at any moment. Like they're on HBO, Showtime, whatever. I'm not turning them on. I don't care. I mean, the stunts are fine, but it looks like they bring Tom Cruise in to do the stunts, because like the people that they get to do the stunts as James Bond are nothing like it's just like, here's a guy doing a stunt and let's pretend that he's Pierce Brosnan for a moment. Yeah. And it's like, no, like Pierce Brosnan doesn't look like that guy. Like that guy has curly hair and and is 4 feet tall. Like Pierce Brosnan is really fucking tall. Like, no.
There were some continuity issues for sure.
And
use your imagination.
And there's no. This is James Bond in 1999. This isn't James Bond in 1973. So it's not. They're not trying to match up to Roger Moore. And this is an interesting, and honestly, this is an interesting inflection point for action movies too. Let's be fair. Like, and this is being fair to James Bond, where everybody wants more, and they know what they want more of, but the Hollywood wasn't sure how to deliver on that yet consistently, because you had The Matrix a few years prior. And so people were willing and wanting to have computer stuff going on in their movies, but not everybody was moving to doing their action sequences with computer stuff. So you still had a lot of people doing old school stunts, but they needed to do bigger, better stunts, but in order to do bigger, better stunts, it was a weird time for action movies, just to be honest. But the script doesn't help. The casting hurt significantly. And the last line of the movie that you guys told me to look forward to is just the quintessential problem I have with the Pierce Brosnan era James Bond movies, which is it's okay to be tongue-in-cheek and corny. The Pierce Brosnan era leans into it so heavily.
Oh yeah.
And like I loved Roger Moore as James Bond because he was naturally just sort of suave and funny. Pierce Brosnan just doesn't strike me as funny, like at all. And we lost Susan. She's out. This
has been her like most of your segment.
Okay. So yeah. Paul doesn't come twice to this movie. How's that? I've seen it once and I'm done. I'm much like Christmas throughout the year, once and done. That they named the character Christmas Jones just for one joke.
Right.
It's stupid.
Yeah. The moment she gets introduced in this movie, and listen, I'm as much a James Bond movie fan as anybody on this show.
Yeah.
But when that name was like spoken, I was like, oh, I'm done, and this is early. So
Yeah.
Yep.
It wasn't that early though. They waited really long to lay the Denise Richards on you.
Right, yeah.
And and like, I mean, we have. I can't. I'm done. This movie just.
Yeah.
I was better off having not seen it and just not liking the Pierce Brosnan era and never seeing another one of the Pierce Brosnan era movies ever again.
But you've now completed the Pierce Brosnan cycle, though, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I might not have seen the second one, so which
is that the one with Michelle Yeoh?
Yes.
That's the one you have to see.
Okay, I might not have seen
that. In
my
opinion, one. That's the of the ones he did. That's the only that you talk about stunt sequences. Good God.
Okay, I might not have seen that one, so I'll hold off and
reconsider.
We can maybe like I'll check it out, when we get to assignments again, and if I've already seen it, I'll let you know.
Let me know. Yeah.
This one I did not like at all. Like I on my Letterboxd, I gave it 3 stars just because like I was like I didn't feel like going through the effort of remembering which of the Pierce Brosnan movies I hadn't seen. So I'm actually going to go back and like lower the rating because it definitely does not deserve 3 stars. It's so bad.
Yeah. So on our scale of 5 tacos, where do you land?
I'll be nice and say 2 tacos. I'm being nice. I'm really being nice.
You are being nice. You're being generous. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely deserves more than 1 because there are elements of it that kind of work.
Yeah.
And just because it's a Bond movie, but I'm landing at a 2.
That makes sense. Yeah, the Pierce Brosnan era. I like how you described it because to me, there was so much. I don't know that I ever considered the age being a part of it, but there had been so much, such a groundswell of support for wanting Pierce Brosnan. But everybody knows the story. His commitment to Remington Steele, so forth and so on, got us Timothy Dalton, which I enjoyed. By the time you reached Pierce Brosnan, which I always had hoped he would be cast, it was the feeling I got was like, oh, this wasn't quite what I thought it would be. Like he doesn't really. It's like he doesn't embrace the role.
I think that honestly, I think it was the writing. I just think that with Pierce Brosnan, you need to go. The humor doesn't work for him for whatever reason. Like the double entendres and innuendo, just like he's a sexy dude. Just let him exude sexy dudeness, and you're good. Like you goofy sexy dude is not Pierce Brosnan, and Pierce Brosnan should just be sexy dude. Like could you imagine with the guy they have doing it now, like all these horrible double entendres? I mean,
no.
Yeah, because that's not who he is, and that's not who Pierce Brosnan is either. It just doesn't.
But if you think about it, it goes with the cycle of sort of historically these movies. Sean Connery was never much about heavy on the double entendre, that kind of stuff. Roger Moore was.
But that's who Roger Moore was.
Exactly. Like, he was able to pull it off.
It worked for him.
We went into this more serious cycle with Dalton.
Is that what happened with Dalton? He was being serious?
Yeah, his role, his movies are far more, they have those tongue-in-cheek moments, but they kind of lean towards being more on the serious side. Then they're like, okay, well, that didn't seem to work, so maybe we got to bring out the Roger Moore-ness of it all, and we got Pierce Brosnan. He gets saddled with some of the worst dialogue in the history of the franchise. Yeah. So that by the time you get Daniel Craig, they're like, listen, we're going to just reboot this whole thing.
Yeah.
Which begins the era of my favorite Bond. But that's for me to say. So, Susan, you're going to say.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I think that it tried too hard. There was too much that was trying to be that it wasn't able to be.
It wasn't
the fault of the acting.
Yeah, I refute that only because if it was trying too hard, you would like be afraid of the villain. Like the villain is so shitty in this, so bad. And
which is a shame. Robert Carlyle.
The way they introduce him is like he doesn't feel any pain, and he's getting more and more powerful as the bullet goes deeper in his brain. It's like, okay, cool, let's see that. Nope. This bad guy just gets tossed around like a fucking rag doll and doesn't do anything interesting throughout the whole movie. It's like, ugh. And I'm sorry, but I didn't believe it was obvious for like the quote unquote plot twist was like obvious from the first second. Like there was nothing, I don't know, whatever. I honestly don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's move on.
Yeah. If I remember correct, I'm sorry, Susan, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I will say that this movie does give us one of the best torture scenes in a Bond film, when Sophie Marceau has him strapped in that chair and that thing is coming out from behind his neck. That to me was one of the only times that I perked up and was like, oh, this is interesting. So yeah.
But his shoulder already hurt. I'm sorry.
Oh goodness. Fine then.
I'd already checked out by the time that came around, I guess. I don't know.
That's right. All right. Well, that's 2 down, 1 to go.
That fucking line. Christmas comes twice. Whatever it was. Okay. Go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
They wrote that whole movie just to get to that line.
Right. Like somebody had that idea and they were like,
oh yeah. I went to the theater and watched it when it was released, so you can imagine how by that point I was like, okay, where are my keys? I'm out. All right, so Susan, we come to you, and I'm excited to hear what you thought of yours.
So the guys assigned me the 40-year-old virgin. This one, it was from 2005 with Steve Carell, I think. I don't remember much from him before, and maybe obviously, clearly I'm not the movie buff that you guys are, but I remember when this came out, and I remember thinking to myself, there's absolutely no way that I'm going to be interested in this whatsoever. It didn't even look remotely funny. It looked like a lot of the old jokes that you'd seen, like the dumb stuff. But I watched it last night because I wanted it to be kind of fresh in my mind, and also because I couldn't sleep. So obviously, the premise of the movie is that this guy has never had sex, and he's, his work buddies find out, and it's like their mission to get him laid, essentially. And it's like some of the stuff that happened was hilarious, and some of the stuff I was like,
oh, it's super cringy.
Oh yeah.
Super cringy. Mega
super
cringy.
Super duper cringy, yes.
And, I think it's like, it wouldn't work like this in real life. It doesn't just happen like that in real life,
Right.
So, I think Steve Carell did an amazing job, like pulling off, like making it uncomfortable enough, I guess. It was funny. I did find it funny. I think, and like the various parts, like, and I'd seen bits and pieces of it. I've never seen the full thing all the way through. And of course, like, the one scene that stands out in everybody's mind is him getting his chest waxed. And I was reading up on that. And if I read correctly, like that was real. Like they really did that to him. And I'm like,
yeah.
And he really walked off. He literally walked out of it.
Yeah.
Like that was
you guys have never had any waxing done.
No.
I've had accidental ones.
No.
Hey now.
No. It doesn't count if it's accidental and if one little tiny spot. No. Waxing sucks. It hurts. It really does. So at that point I was like, oh, I feel that pain, but like that's a lot of damn hair, so but I mean, I think it was really hilarious. So I think like the bits and pieces, like Seth Rogen always kind of plays that same goofy stoner guy, and I mean that's who he is in real life. And Paul Rudd is like the same age now. He never ages, and he always kind of plays that, like, I don't know, dopey kind of friend, I guess, maybe. Like one is always just a little bit off.
Dopey.
Not dopey, that's not the right word, but like just off a little bit.
Yeah.
Off target a little bit.
Offbeat.
So yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny. I thought it was really funny, and I thought like, the way that Catherine Keener played really right. And Trish, she was very, it was realistic, like in terms of like that's how somebody would act, super awkward. There was always a little bit of an awkward kind of feel to the scenes, but that's kind of how I think it would be in real life. So I don't know, I found it funny. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie when it came out, and again, the day it released, and I found it hilarious. And when you got to that infamous, hair waxing scene, I was already laughing my ass off. But then when he yelled Kelly Clarkson, I lost my shit. I absolutely lost it. I was done at that point. I'm like, this is, I loved it.
So the lines from that I love them best all come from the improving being done by Paul Rudd, which is when he first takes off his shirt, he's like, "Oh, I like your sweater. I love it because of how hairy he is. I love that." And then when he says, "Oh, you look like a man-o'-lantern," I love that.
I was gonna say that was my favorite line.
That one kills me.
Because if you pause it, it's like he really does, like there's like a triangle shape out of his.
Oh yeah, he looks. It's fantastic. It's just fantastic.
It is.
It's one of the comedies that I don't think. I mean, I picture people sitting around a table in the studio going, "What are we doing?" But when you put that cast of characters together, those actors, they tend to hit home runs. I mean, they tend to hit home runs, and so
and just so you know, like as far as you don't know what he was doing before 2005. He was doing The Daily Show. Like this was Steve Carell's big movie. Like he was always in like little bit parts, little side parts prior to this. But his following was from people who loved The Daily Show, and obviously Judd Apatow, is just that's kind of like the he's totally dialed into the awesomeness of that, and those guys need to be really good at improv. And if you're going to be doing a Judd Apatow movie, that's what you need to be good at. Like you need to be ready to come on set and roll with everything. And that's what Steve Carell was trained to do. He was him and Colbert were both trained improv actors, and so I just remember seeing the movie poster, which is just so freaking goofy. I love it. And like I had no idea that Steve Carell was going to be doing a movie. I saw the movie poster, and like I vividly remember my reaction when I saw the movie poster. Like I got really excited. I started jumping up and down. I immediately, as soon as I got home, because smartphones weren't a thing yet. As soon as I got home, I looked up on the internet when it was coming out, and I got as much information as I could that was available. And I was first weekend opening night, absolutely there for this one. So
yeah, it's a fun film for sure. So on our 5 taco scale, Susan, where would you put the 40-year-old version?
I'm gonna say 4 tacos. Solid 4 tacos. Yeah. It was funny. I thought it was funny, and there were bits of where I was kind of going, but it was funny on the whole for the most part. Just it was funny.
Yeah,
it was good.
Absolutely. Well, that's another successful round of movie assignments, that's for sure. So make sure that you check out the films that we've talked about today on this episode, and let us know your thoughts. You can find us on Facebook and also on Instagram. So make sure you look up Real to Real Talk and find us, connect with us, and let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you're watching, find out what we're watching and getting ready to talk about. Also, thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. We appreciate that you visit with us every week. Don't forget, if you haven't already, click subscribe and also click that notification bell so you know when our episodes land. And give us a like on this episode and comment so that we know what your thoughts are overall. All right. Well, that brings us to our weekly segments. And Paul, what in the hell did you watch this week?
Well, leaving the horror behind, I transitioned over to high cinema, and I picked up a movie from a gentleman named Orson Welles.
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't know if you've ever heard of him before. In 1962, Orson Welles made a movie called The Trial. starring Anthony Perkins and Orson Welles and a whole bunch of other people you've never heard of before. I promise you've never heard of them before. But Anthony Perkins you would know from obviously Psycho and Psycho 2 and Psycho 3 and Psycho 4 and Psycho 5. But so it's an Orson Welles movie based off of a Franz Kafka novel called by the same name called The Trial. And okay, so like this one is a totally different realm of what the hell did I just watch? Obviously, if you're at all familiar with Kafka at all, like it's surrealist, it's very surrealistic, you know, and so in that regard, whoops, oh my, in that regard, it's very what the hell am I watching here? Because it leans heavy into the surrealism. This movie, if you've never read any Kafka before, and if you are just not familiar with like surrealistic literature at all, like you're just like, what the hell's going? However, if you've read any Kafka before, there's a lot of things that pop up that are just like, okay, this is it. You know, like Kafka loves throwing random people into scenes for no reason, like just, you know, like what the hell are these people doing here? Case in point. So what's going on in this movie is our protagonist, who very Kafka-esque, only goes by his name, Mr. K. No, we have no idea what his name is throughout the movie. It's just Mr. K. Wakes up to find police in his room, and turns out he's under arrest and he has to go to trial. But nobody ever tells him why. Nobody ever establishes what crime he committed, anything like that. It's just he has to go to this trial. And so like the world that Kafka has set up here, and Orson Welles has set up here is a world where there's just, you know, it's almost like they're the thought police is really what it ends up being, or you know, just the bureaucrats, you know, like, so, you know, Kafka hates bureaucrats. Kafka hates anything that has to do with, you know, tedious life and existence and working and whatnot. And that's all this movie's about, is bureaucrats screwing people over. Like he shows up in his trial and they call him by the wrong name. And you know, like it's when the police show up, you know, they say, well, we have statements from 3 of your coworkers, and his 3 coworkers just happen to be there too. Like it's very Kafka-esque stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, and we only ever find out one of the 3 coworkers' names, and like his coworkers just like are stealing pictures from the room that they're standing in, and like they have to be told, no, you can't take those pictures, those are mine. This movie is 100% film school fodder. Like it, you know, I really enjoyed it. But I love that kind of surrealistic like feeling of not belonging to the world and just being lost in everything. And like I really liked this movie, but it's not for everybody by any stretch of the imagination. Like, so like it's just overwrought with imagery and symbolism and themes that like I can't even be like, it's like, this is the kind of movie that you would write a 10-page paper on, you know, why did Orson Welles use lines like that? That's it. Like you would just write you could write a 10-page paper on the use of lines throughout all of the cinematography, because I mean there's just constantly lines cutting through the scenery, you know, through shadow, through art, you know, the set direction would you know, the wallpaper would have lines. There's lines everywhere, and it's, you know, so it would actually be a really good paper, but like it's not something we need to get into right now. so just on its own merit as a movie, if you just watch it, you're like, what the hell is going on? And it's very heavy on that.
Sounds like it was perfect for this segment, that's for sure. It
really was. And I was, and I can't tell you how happy I was after a month of just slasher horror films to do something slightly more erudite and still fuck with my head. Like it was just, I like, yeah. So I welcomed the change gleefully. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it's again as this series continues, it's going to be interesting to see where we go now because from a thematic month of horror films to where we are now, you really I'll say when you said Orson Welles, I was like, ooh,
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful movie. It's superbly directed, superbly acted. Even though I don't, and that's the other thing is like you have no idea where you are. Like they never establish a country. Everybody has different accents. It's so much happens in this movie that you're like, what? Wait, what? Like the only thing that's missing is like a duck dropping down smoking a cigar. It's like what? And that would have made sense for some reason. But if you've seen, honestly, like I would kind of feel like if you've seen anything else by Orson Welles, any of the movies he's directed, particularly like Citizen Kane, and you were intrigued by Citizen Kane, definitely check this out. Like it's really good.
And Paul, where can we find the trial?
Shoot. Oh, where did I find it? Oh, crap. I don't remember. Fudge. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I watched it a while ago. Fred. It's somewhere. No, I remember. YouTube. It's on YouTube. And you have to deal with Spanish subtitles, but I didn't mind.
That YouTube is good for many, many things. So
yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, make sure that if you have enjoyed the unique films that Paul has brought to us through his segment, What the Hell Did I Just Watch? Make sure you let us know and continue to explore cinema of the weird.
Yes, very
so
weird.
Thank you, Paul, very much for always bringing us the coolest stuff.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that brings us to this week's edition of Susan Finally Saw. And as always, Susan, what happened?
Well, okay. So I in kind of looking back and when we assigned each other all the movies and everything like that, I was looking through the ones that we assigned each other and looking at Paul's movie. I was looking through the filmography of Denise Richards and came across a movie that I hadn't seen before. Because I do weird things. Don't laugh at me, you. So
I'm just my whole first thought was like, ooh, what's that potential gonna look like?
There wasn't a lot. I'm just gonna say that there wasn't a lot.
No, we know.
So
after doing The World Is Not Enough, she kind of disappeared, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
wouldn't
you?
Yeah.
But before The World Is Not Enough, because I think this was the year before, she starred in this like teen-ish drama called Wild Things.
Yeah, it
was bad.
That's a movie. That's a movie. What?
And it was so Paula, you've seen it before. Sergio, have you seen that movie?
I have. Unfortunately, I must admit that I have.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, okay,
I go ahead. I'm sorry, Susan. I was about to say.
No, go ahead. What were you
No. The reason I say unfortunately is because when I watched it, I felt dirty, but I don't regret having watched it because I don't know that I would have known back then. But here we are talking about it. So
that's exactly the kind of the feeling that I was getting. It was just kind of like, I need to go take a shower.
Yes. With Kevin Bacon, preferably, I'm sure.
I mean, I wouldn't have said no. But yeah, so that's what I finally watched. If you haven't seen the movie, it is twisty, turny, and weird, and not the best movie to see. No. So I wouldn't say don't watch it, but just be prepared for a kind of weird and slightly really uncomfortable movie. It puts a lot of light on to, this is what high school kids think about sometimes. It's kind of weird. So, but yeah, that was
Nev Campbell and Denise Richards. Come on. All right. I can't believe this. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to speak in defense of Wild Things. So
This I'm ready for.
I'm
Yes.
not. So really
Please
quick before
proceed.
I didn't hate the movie,
okay,
but I didn't particularly like it either. It was just kind of
Okay.
like a okay.
sure. There is a
Now it's time.
genre of movie that is voyeuristic cinema, and
Yeah.
and quite frankly, Wild Things is an amazing example of voyeuristic cinema. Like, I'm not even saying that to be facetious or sarcastic or anything. It is for what it is, which is that's it. It is just voyeuristic cinema. It's really good. Like it actually does have a decent, a decent story. A lot of voyeuristic cinema just you're supposed to feel dirty. Like it is okay watching this movie at the end feeling dirty while you're watching it, because you're supposed to feel dirty watching this movie. Like that is the appropriate response to watching this movie, is you're supposed to feel dirty. So there it is. I mean, is it going to win any awards? No, but for what it is a very good, well executed version of what it is. So that's it. That's my defense of Wild Things.
If you want to see something hilarious, if you want to hear something hilarious, it actually won 2 awards, like minor awards. Like
Yeah.
Los Angeles Film Critics Awards. Bill Murray won for Best Supporting Actor as his trip as the sleazy kind of lawyer guy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but yeah, like I said, it wasn't something that was terrible. It was just kind of like uncomfortable, awkward, weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, not.
All right. So, where can our fans watch Wild Things? Where did you catch it?
I actually saw it on YouTube. I rented it for it was like $2 or something, like $1.99, something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there you go.
Of a friend, so I had to do it.
That makes sense. If you want to see some really, really weird stuff,
And
check out Wild
Kevin
Things.
Bacon's penis.
There you go. Another phrase I never thought we'd say on this show has now been said. So, Kevin Bacon's penis. That's going to be the subtitle. That's going to be the title for the show when I publish
6
it. So.
inches of separation. What? Oh, hey!
Oh, talk about feeling dirty. Oh man, I could have been your Ed McMahon. Jeez. Hey.
Zing!
Good night, everybody.
All wins.
Oh man. All right. Well,
I turned
thank you,
red.
Susan, once again for a fine edition of Susan Finally Saw. And thank you, Paul, for your description of voyeuristic cinema, because it's now time. This is going to tie together. Can you believe it? It's now time for Real-Time Rewind. And I decided that for the month of November, I was going to talk about movies and remind you about movies that are so bad, they're kind of good.
Okay.
And Paul's description of voyeuristic cinema was a perfect lead-in. And frankly, Susan, your choice of Wild Things was a perfect lead-in for the fact that I'm going to remind you that there's a movie out there called Showgirls. And
Yes.
how that happens, I don't know. But
Yes.
as y'all were talking, I'm like, oh, I'm so
Yes.
glad I made this decision because this is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, see it so that you'll feel as dirty as I do every time I watch it. Oh, you saw it more than once, Sergio? Have. So, and not for the reasons that people might think, although kinda. This movie, the reason
Kyle MacLachlan, man.
yeah, the reason it draws me back is because of what it did for the careers of people that were in it, for reasons of understanding a director that just didn't give a shit about what he was putting on screen. If he wanted to film it, he was going to film it. For the fact that, people like Gina Gershon, who, to me could have had an even better career given, some of the choices she made early on. This movie's got it all, literally. And
Minus the plot.
yeah. it is such a train wreck of a film that it's it's so bad that it's good. I'll rewatch it now and then, not often, but it's just one of those films that you can't turn your eyes away because, there's the obvious, titillation factor of it all, but it's so much more than that if you study and understand some details behind the scenes about this film. And yeah, it won awards because it won some Razzies. And so, that counts as awards. So
Swept them,
yeah.
quite frankly, yeah.
So thank you, Paul, for helping me to label what this movie was, and Susan for giving me the perfect lead-in and not feeling so horrible about the decision I made for this month. So
Glad it could help.
So that is this week's Real Time Rewind. And right now we're going to stop and we're going to remind you, you can find us on Facebook. You can also find us on Instagram. You'll know what we're watching, what we're going to talk about, things of that nature, and know that we want to hear from you. On any of our posts, just give us your comments, tell us what you're watching, tell us what you want us to talk about in the future, whatever the case might be. We get into the latter part of the year and a lot of family time, a chance to watch movies. And so we're going to continue to give you titles to think about watching and encourage you. I mean, I could see a family gathering around the table after Thanksgiving dinner and watching Showgirls.
Talking about Showgirls.
There you go. Absolutely. So, all right. So also make sure that here on YouTube, make sure you click on that subscribe button and also click on the notification bell so you know when our episodes land. And we thank you for the likes, comments, and all those things. And so we like that you're doing or taking this journey with us. All right. Well, it's time for real quick reviews. And Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you because I believe you've got something for us.
Yeah. On Apple TV right now, the latest offering from Sofia Coppola and Bill Murray, it is On the Rocks, starring Bill Murray, Rashida Jones, Marlon Wayans. Look, I will be honest, Sofia Coppola is a huge blind spot for me. The only movie from hers that I've seen is Lost in Translation. And that's to my detriment, quite frankly. I need to catch up on my Sofia Coppola. But On the Rocks, from my understanding of Sofia Coppola's work, fits right in. Just exploring people, their relationships and stuff. In this case, Bill Murray plays sort of a playboy in the waning years of his playboyness, and his daughter, Rashida Jones, who is the only family member that still talks to him, much to the chagrin of all of the rest of her family, including her husband. And she gets it in her head that, rightfully so, that he might be having an affair. They just moved to New York, and he's starting a new job. He just recently started a new job and is away from work or away from home a lot more now. And so Bill Murray, being the former playboy, says, "Oh yeah, he's definitely cheating on you. Let's solve this case." And so it becomes a bit of a crime solving detective caper from there. It's a tough watch. I mean, look, it's a lot of emotions and family relations are explored. It's very uncomfortable funny, like that, like you're laughing, but you're like, I really shouldn't be laughing at this. This is not like, this is funny, but tragic in ways, but ends perfectly. I love the ending to this movie. I can't, if it had, I was literally not enjoying myself through most of the movie, but then the way it ends perfectly. And it's almost like a cookie at the end, like, okay, here, you made it through. We will give you the ending that you want. And I literally, that was it. There was a very specific ending I wanted, and it gave it to me, so I was happy. So there you go. We'll say four tacos for this.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm not going to watch it again.
Okay.
It's not one that I'll revisit, but I highly recommend people checking it out. Bill Murray's amazing in it, as he usually is. and Rashida Jones is fantastic too.
Yeah, that's a movie I definitely want to catch. Sofia Coppola, her work in Lost in Translation, and Paul, if you haven't seen The Virgin Suicides, you got to watch that.
And that's I haven't.
Yeah, there's just I'm so glad that her directorial career took off the way it did, because she got so much heat from her role in The Godfather Part 3.
Right.
And just to see her rise above and become one of the premier directors of modern
writers
time.
And directors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's great. So I'm excited to check out that movie. So
I hope you do.
Excellent.
I recommend it.
Excellent. All right. Well, if you're watching, then you have a lot to catch up on. You've got movies to watch and all kinds of stuff, because
get on it.
It's November, guys. I can't believe it's November. That's all I'm going to say next. We are quickly approaching 50 episodes of Reel to Real Talk. And team, I just want to take a quick moment before we sign off to say thank you to both of you, Susan, Paul. I gush about you guys every week on our social media, but I just want to have it said on film that you guys have made this dream far better than I ever imagined it would be. So thank you both. And I'm looking forward to many, many more episodes of our show together. So thank y'all. All right. With that, we're going to go and cry. But we're also going to say goodnight. Thank you so much for watching. If it is morning, then that is going to be weird for you. But yeah, we look forward to having you back next time. And remember, you're awesome. You're amazing. And the world's a better place because you are in it. We will see you next time on Reel to Real Talk.